Hey guys, this is Akash Rajput, and today we all will be learning about Workspace component and its new feature. Once we understand about Workspace component, then we will move ahead and create our custom component that is new in Orlando. So our agenda of today will be, first we will understand about anatomy of Workspace, then we will understand about how we can set up our custom project, then we will create a very small project named as Hello World program, and then we will deploy and run it on ServiceNow on Ribbon component. So guys, let us start. So what is a workspace? Workspace is nothing, it's just a web app container which contains our main web application written in React.js. This workspace also contains UX components known as UX page, which is a canvas renderer which is used to render our custom root level component. Now this UX page consists of various elements known as UX page element. Okay, and these UX page element are nothing, these are the containers of component. Also these UX page can also contain itself the various other UX page inside one UX page element. Now comes our UX component definition, which is nothing, it's a wrapper of our actual component that we have written in JavaScript. And this UX component definition contains the actual source code of our written JavaScript component. So let's see how we can set up our project definition and then how we can deploy our project. So to set up the project, we first need to install ServiceNow provided ServiceNow CLI npm library. Once we set up that, so we will be installed with Now CLI in our system, and there in Now CLI we have to use this specific syntax to link our ServiceNow instance with our username and password. Once we are done, then we will create a folder, and inside that folder we will create a project using this Now CLI command line, and then we will install the dependency for that particular project. Once we are done with that project setup and when we are done with our components, then we will deploy our project using Now CLI develop command as well as Now CLI deploy command. So this force syntax we will use to override the components whenever we are submitting an update of an component. So let's see guys how it will work in the system. Here is my Visual Studio code, and I have already installed this module npm install ServiceNow CLI-G. And to check if this is installed or not, what we can do is we can go to our terminal, and here I can type now CLI hyphen version, and it should give me the latest version or whatever version we have installed. Now once this is done, I'll open the folder. Here is one folder that I have created, and the component name that we'll be using is my awesome component. I will open this. This is open. Now I'll open the terminal, and I will log in into my instance. To log in and link my instance, what I need to do is I need to type this command now -cli login host is s, and here I'll type my host name, then method name, that to be basic, then username is admin, and then password. So here's one catch, that if your password consists some kind of a special character like hyphen or curly braces, then I suggest that you should include it in double quotes. So you see in my password it contains this thing. So now it is creating and checking the connection. And yep, so it's not the admin. The correct username is su underscore admin. So it says that it is connected. So I'll just clear the screen. And now our second command that we need to trigger is project name. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now CLI hyphen hyphen, it should be project hyphen hyphen name. And here's the naming convention that you cannot have capital characters in the name. So what you need to do is I'll say my awesome component. And once I do it, it will create a scope in this application by default. And if I need to pass any scope, the any scoped application name, then I can use this command. But right now, let's not use that. Let's directly create this. So it says that it must include at least one hyphen. So let's do one thing. Let's do it something like this. It will take some time to create the project. Now it has created the project and we have to install all of our dependencies. It is still downloading some of the stuff, so let's wait. If you are wondering that why I'm getting this error, it is because that there is no Xcode development uh, version it is detecting. So that's fine. It is rebuilding itself, so that's fine. There's no need to worry because I just recently updated my OS. So it is about to complete. So now it is completed. So let me clear the screen. And you see that there is src folder and it has already created this component for me. And there are certain basics files that if you go with package.json, it is a standard node.js file. Then if you go into this now CLI, this will come in handy when we are writing our GraphQL. And here it has created this scope name. So if I go into my ServiceNow instance, here I will be getting one of our new application scope application created with this name. Okay, we'll see that in later. And if you go to this index page, it has already included my this component, as well as this is one of the main entry point, and it has also included this component, and this is having this component. So that is fine. So right now what they have is we are presented with this standard example set. So what we are going to do is we are just going to write a hello world here, and we will just try to deploy it. So I'll just save it, and to develop it first, what I'll do is now CLI develop and enter. So now it will build it and it will run my browser, and we will see locally that how it looks into the screen. It will take some time to build. So now it has generated this one. So I'll go into my browser, and the default port is 8081. See that it is working, and we can see that even in my inspect that it is working fine, right? It has set these initial state values and all the things. Okay, so now once this is done, I'll stop this, and what I'll do is I'll deploy it onto my system, and I'll enter it. So what it will do is it will call my ServiceNow APIs and it will deploy it to my instance. that we have connected in previous settings. So let's wait for some time and it will deploy the screens to the system. So now it is you see that it is creating one record in sysux lib source script as well as sysux lib component. So this script is nothing, it is containing the deployed production version of our script, our component in a minified version. So let's go back to our instance. Let us log in the system. Let me also enable all these stuff. So if we look into here, that our my awesome component has been created, and if I click on this one and go into my application, I'll be presented with these 2 or 3 files that we have just created right now. See that I'm having my 2 files here, UX component definition and source code. To see this component source code, we can go into source script.list, and here it will be presented with our file. I'll just modify the screen and have created by in my list layout Z2A, and here it is, my awesome component. It is taking some time to load. Let me refresh my page. So now you see that we are not able to understand anything here because it is somehow a minified version of our component and all of its dependencies. Okay, so it is done, and then what we are going to do is, so this is here, and you remember that we talked about component, that component is nothing, it is a wrapper of ux component is nothing, it is a wrapper of our script file. And here is the component sys ux lib component dot list. Again, let me modify it. Let me take the created one and sort it. You see, here it is my component. Now we need to remember one thing, and it is required that this tag name should be exactly same to my custom element name. If it is not same, then it will not render our component. Okay, so yeah, this is one thing that we need to remember. So these two things are created automatically, and if we remember our structure, that workspace contains our ux page, and ux page contains our ux page element, and page element contains our component definition. So we have created the component definition, but now we will create our page element. So to create the page element, we have to go to this table sys ux page element. I'll change my screen to global and we'll close this one. Let me refresh it again, and let's create a new record here. So I'll give it that name as my awesome component, and I'll select the component that we have created in previous screen is this component, and in the parent element I'll select already existing component in this one. So I'll select additional bundles. Even you can select the ITSM addition of bundles. So In this example, I'm going to use the CSM agent workspace, but you can use ITSM1 as well or any other workspace. I'll save this one. So now this thing is created. Now there is one more thing needs to do before we go into our ribbon component setting is that we need to create a ribbon component. So for that, the table name is sysaw underscore ribbon underscore component dot list. So here you will see that we don't have any new button here to create a new component, but there is a hack that I'll go and take my elevated roles, and it's just a hack. I'm sure that in future ServiceNow will provide some kind of configuration to do all this stuff, but for just right now we can use this hack. I'll go to the security rules and I'll just go with to the last rules. I'll just open three these four rules, and right now this table is only for main taxes, but just for our demo that what kind of flexibility we are having in creating custom components and what kind of work we can do with the custom components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give access to admin as well. This is loaded, so right now create does not have anything, so I'll admin override this create as well. To delete as well, read is already having the access, and write as well. Done. This is also done and this is also done. I'll go back to my ribbon components. I'll close this one as well. You see now I'm having a new one. So before even adding it to CSM1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's just first add it. My awesome component, let's name it like this. Select my UX component, submit it. So this has been created now, my awesome component. I'll close this one. Now here's the fun part begin, that I'll go to the ribbon settings. You see that there I'm having all this customer one. So let's first open the agent workspace and see how that looks in right now before doing all our settings. Right now I don't have any cases assigned to me, but I'll click on all and I'll open this one. You see right now here I'm having contact, timeline and case priority. So right now I'll just remove this timeline one, and you can add more than that. Okay, I'm just on temporary basis I'm just deactivating the timeline one. So I cannot just directly double click here and edit it because it's in another application scope. I'll open it here and edit it from here, and I'll remember the order, it's 200. Save it. Now it is done. Let's create new ribbon setting, name it as awesomeness. Let's select our component as my awesome component, and to which table it applies. Of course it is case. Width is, let's say, give it 4 or 5, and order is 200, and submit this one. Let's close everything here, open workspace component, click on my all cases. Now let's click on the first one. Okay, see that it has been rendered that hello world, and let's do modify the stuff. Okay, and let's go back to my component here. Instead of just giving a div, I'll just provide it as h1, h1, and now again deploy it. So if you are updating the same component, if you want to deploy it, better is to add this force element. So what it will do is it will forcefully deploy it, otherwise it will ask you to, and it will take the permission. So I'll just forcefully deploy it. It will take some time to deploy, and that's fine. So it says that now instead of creating, it is saying that it is updating the components. And once it is done, yes, it is done. We will just refresh the page. Now see, now it has been rendered correctly. So that we are done with our hello world project, as well as we have deployed it, but hello world does not make much more sense. So let's do one thing. Let's create a button here. So instead of so you can use custom button component as well. So let's write, and you see as soon as I start writing it, it has started giving me error, because JSX only support one parent element. So what you can do is, there is something known as fragment. I'll just have this one, and inside fragment you can deploy all this button, and let's say it awesome button. Okay, let's give save this one and again deploy it. Yep, it is deployed, and again we will refresh it. Now you see that my awesome button is here. So right now it will not do anything, and it is not looking good. So what ServiceNow has done is, ServiceNow has created some of the library component for us, and in this page, in this developer portal, we can go to the reference one, and here we have this library component. So what we can do is, we can go to the button one, and we can utilize these buttons. To utilize these components, what we need to do is, we have to install these uh, additional component locally into our project, not globally into the system, but locally into the project. So what I'll do is, npm, let me first clear the screen, npm I this one, and enter. You don't need to pass global flag here, because we just want to install it in our uh, project itself. It will take some time. Now it has installed this. Clear the screen. To use that, what we need to do is, we can put our settings here. So CTA is positive or negative, icon name is awesomeness, let's say it, and then copy the code. I have copied it, and now here, instead of this button, I am typing the whole button here. Let me somewhat modify this one. And now if you want to deploy it, and what will happen, it will give you an error, because we have not included this library here in our system. So what I need to do is, import @ ServiceNow now button. I need to import this library. So now I have imported this library, as well as because these components are provided by ServiceNow, we have to follow one extra step. What we need to do is we need to go into this now UI JSON, and you see that there is one inner component array. Okay, so I need to put this now component library here, and it will be a comma separated library of all the inner components, whatever components we are going to use. Once I am done, I will save it, and again I will deploy it. It will now take some time. It has started the component. I just want to show you one thing. Once it has deployed it, till then let me open this record. Sys ux lib source script. Okay, it is deployed now. If I open this my awesome component, you will see that there is something known as inner component. It has contained this internal component, and if I go back into my system, I'm having this button component here. See, I'm having this button component, which is again having its own script written in this URL. See, it is not easy to understand, but yes, some people can read that. So once this is deployed, I'll refresh my page. It is now loading the record. You see that this button label is here, and it is having, so it should not be having just button label. Okay, it has not created it. So what we are going to do is awesomeness. So we will change the label name awesomeness. Icon name is less fine, is fine. So now what we want to do is, when I click on this one, I want it to give a pop-up as well as log log a message on my console. Okay, so let's do the thing. And if you know about React.js, then it is quick, it is pretty easy. So what I need to do is on click, or you can do something like this. And in React.js, it is not just directly functions, so we have to write things in curly braces. Let's say just console it. Okay, log, and yay, let's do one thing. Yay, I am coming from awesomeness. Okay, is clicked. Save it, deploy it, or even before deploying, you can test it on your development instance as well, that using now CLI develop. But right now I'm just taking a shortcut and deploying it on the system. Now let me refresh it. So now let it reload, and yay, our button is here. So let me open my console. I have opened my console. Let me just click on this button, and yes, it has clicked on, it has logged our message. Yay, awesomeness is clicked. So that is one way. Another way of clicking the button in specific to ServiceNow, we are going to learn in next video. And in the next video as well, we will learn that how we can have our custom component talking to our ServiceNow instance, and populating data, dynamic data from ServiceNow. So till next video.